My father owned this place before me, and although I like to think I'm on good terms with the animals, but my father, he had a real gift. By the time he left, he'd been working here for nearly 2,000 years, and knew the animals well. So, to mark his farewell, he decided to arrange a musical extravaganza. Humans were the chief troublemakers, disrupting the successful implementation of my father's plans. Humans are not permitted to watch the magic of wizards, so it can be a prerequisite on rare occasions to cast a spell and freeze them. And then, when the animals were all set, the musical show could start to spread its charm. The percussion animals took the lead. As the music traveled through the jungle, it was caught by the ears of other creatures. Guess who picked up the beat? The entry of the ostrich spread forth the sounds of the musical extravaganza. It grabbed the attention of all the animals in the woods, and the birds began to mesmerize with their melodious voices. The music spread throughout the forest, and then monkeys too started to croon. Its charm was spread all around the globe. As the roar of the music amplified, the animals began to groove. The splendid concert was applauded by one and all, and was a great parting gift for my father. And when silence prevailed once again, the frozen people were unwillingly dragged back to reality. It wasn't a bad experience after all, and they continued with their routine, without any idea what magic my father and the animal world had been up to. I think they should almost be ready.
I think it was 30 sneezes they wanted. For Ottomania. Now I'll need a travelling pot for this. My father first made this powder when he ran this place. This powder... This is plague sneezing powder. Even a small bit can cause trouble.
A long time ago, my father narrated a story to me of how he created this stuff. He was vacationing in Lagunia when he encountered an abandoned lake, and with nobody around, he began testing. He observed a few tiny flies, and when he scattered his new powder on them, they increased in number. He found out that he could produce more flies if he sneezed the powder. And before long, the border of the lake was teeming with hundreds of thousands of flies. Thrilled by his new plague sneezing powder, he used more and produced a swarm of 5 million flies. But flies are, after all, flies, and my dad wished to go for more vibrant stuff. He wanted trees decorated with ladybirds. And the sky abound with many 100 butterflies. But the spell of the plague sneezing powder soon fades, and the creatures come back to their normal count.
So my father's experiments were hardly noticed until his next set of experiments.
Locusts. Not his best pick, because after some heavy sneezes they multiplied to an unmanageable limit. And when there were more than 50 billion, he administered an anti-plague magic, but in vain. The locusts went on consuming everything that they came across. In sheer urgency, he sneezed on a bird in the hope that they would consume the massive locust swarms. But the vast flock of birds showed dislike in consuming locusts. And now, all of a sudden, he faced a plague of birds and locusts. He began losing his composure. To drive away so many birds, cats might be helpful. Could he actually produce a plague of cats? But what next? The plague of dogs to drive out the cats? No. A much better idea struck him. He took off for the clouds, sneezed, and caused the clouds to swell until the time they produced the fiercest thunderstorm. This purified the air, washing away the plague powder, and the creatures came back to their normal count. Once the clouds left, my father's plague dilemma ended, and he adulterated his powder to avoid such fracas occurring again.
From spending my life with animals, I can tell you many a story about how we wizards need them. They carry out our tasks for us, search for spell ingredients, or occasionally become the ingredients themselves. But they also have their more secret uses. There was once a wizard who discovered the source of all magic, a most powerful secret, and one which he decided to hide. But where would he hide a secret like this one? It had to be well concealed, as in the world of the wizard there are both noble and evil powers. And evil powers would do anything to find out the source of all that is magical, as they could wreak havoc if they managed to find it. The noble wizard knew the lurking dangers, thus he decided to conceal the secret, and chose to interlace it into the land itself. The secret went into the ground. Certainly no one could comb the entire earth, but the evil powers had a scheme. And they influenced the creatures to help. The first creatures to look for the secret were the termites. As the termite soldiers drew near, the secret had been relocated. The evil powers hired the star-nosed mole to snuffle out the place where the secrets were hidden. And he also sought help of the desert mole rats. The creatures were capable of hunting the secret out, but to entrap it, the evil forces sought the help of the plants. As they could drill their roots down into the land, placing a net which would get hold of the secret. More desert mole rats went in, driving the secret on. The evil powers ordered more roots to grow. It appeared that the secret would eventually come out, but the noble wizard understood that his secret was in deep danger. And he came up with a mighty volcano through which his secret could evade the subterranean trap. The secret was eventually freed, and as he saw it go, he produced a key to find out who was the next keeper of the secret. A key which has been passed down to me. So I, and I alone, can see who is the present secret keeper. And that is just the way I'm going to keep it. Spiny creatures, scales, dust creators, invisibility, slime. Yes, here it is. I have someone coming in later with a spell inquiry. She needs a slime with a particular quality, something to bind a bad spell together. She's coming in later to browse through my slime collection.
I clearly recall when I first made use of slime. On an annoying problem over in Mesopotamia. It began pouring in the jungle. But there was something weird about the rain droplets. They began going upwards instead of coming down. The cloud had caught a loose spell. It does happen sometimes. This was a horrible case, as it had caught a time spell which had collapsed. Soon, the nasty spell had covered the entire forest, leading to a glitch in time. The entire place started swinging backward and forward in the same moment of sealed time. I assumed that settling the problem with slug and snail slime would be as easy as pie. Their slime is a brilliant lubricator, and they are constantly secreting vast quantities. I gathered the slime and administered it to the time malfunction. But it only made everything sluggish. My mistake. I didn't realize that this is what snail slime would do. So I shifted my focus on a creature which secretes even stronger slime. The toads produce the most poisonous slime around. I gathered a small amount from the skin, and I combined it with the cane toad slime for extra power. Perhaps I just used more than what was required. My new slime froze the glitch, but then turned the jungle topsy-turvy. I understood that it would take another slime to handle this problem, so I embarked on an underwater trip, because here the slime has extremely unique qualities. The jellyfish's slime is complemented with a sting. And I visited the coast where thousands of them existed, because here I could gather sufficient stinging slime in the hope that this would solve the glitch in time. It had an instantaneous reaction, turning the jungle back the way it was and should be. And there, the problem was solved. And the creatures were at last free, and breathed a huge sigh of relief. Solving the problem was quite a task, but now I've become proficient at solving bad spells with slime, so... Unless she's a completely disastrous witch, there should be something here to bind her spells together. This is a wretched thing to fix. Witches' torches always tend to be tricky. Though this make, with a mark of the broomstick, is usually pretty reliable. This one comes from a competition two witch friends of mine once had. They always like to dare each other to do ridiculous things. And one of them dared the other that she wouldn't be able to survive a month, living as an animal.
She, of course, accepted the challenge, and her friend then gave her this, which turned up to be... at last. An anti-torch. It creates dark rather than light. And when she turned it on, she realized her friend intended her to spend a month out of the sunlight with the creatures of the night. She was thrust into the dark by the anti-torch, and as she opened her eyes and saw the world was topsy-turvy, she understood she had been changed into a bat. She looked at the fruit bats surrounding her, saw how they were devouring figs, and she observed that others licked nectar throughout the night. Soon she befriended some bats, and her weeks went flying past. She loved being a fruit bat. This, she believed, would be a very easy month. But her friend, who was a witch, cast a magic spell which changed her into a cave bat. She was encircled by several raucous bats. She desperately looked for a way to escape. And then, to her delight, she found she could utilize sound to find her exit in that pitch dark. It is a standard trick the bats employ, which she had never used. And though it was impossibly black, she could find an exit. But as soon as she was free, her witch friend came up with other tricks. This time she found herself awakened on a branch. But what kind of bat was she this time? Probably that frog could come to her help. But before she could pose any question, he was devoured by a bat, swooping down suddenly. She realized and understood that this time she was a hunting bat. She believed she should give it a try, but trapping frogs is not an easy job to do. And before she could try her hands, her witch friend turned her for the final time into a vampire. She was frightened by the appearance of these bats. She tried to escape, but now this was her new family. And it was time to have food. She trailed them as they made their way out and watched how they fed by licking the blood from a donkey. She was too scared to approach. What a way to live! She was going to get her witch friend back for this. When she brought this in for me to sell, she told me that her prize for surviving had been to change her friend into whatever animal she wanted for the following week. And that her friend was presently spending the week as a dung beetle.